In yesterday's video, we talked about a path to altcoin season, and today we're going to look at BTC and Ethereum. I'm going to do a little bit of technical analysis on it. A little bit more difficult when there's nothing overhead. We're in blue sky breakout, so anyone that tells you they know where it's going, they're full of crap. It's anyone's guess. There's some ways you can kind of make a better educated guess and things to watch for, and that's the best you can do. So that's kind of what we'll do right now. Let's just go ahead and drop in some support and resistance. I cleaned up most of my lines. Just kind of ignore this other stuff. I left this open as far as I did. Let me just close this down for the volume. If we're going to see something break back down really sharp, you're probably going to get a nice big volume wick like you got any other retrace, that drop there. That's huge during that time. It just looks small compared to this, but that was like, the COVID lockdown drop that was pretty severe. And it's accompanied by huge volume every single time. That is awfully sharp. And it came off resistance. We cleared all-time high. Can we go higher? I think so. Where does it end? Tough choice. It's easier to tell once there's a pullback, but to do so, we really got to drop some support and resistance. So there's a major support right there. That's just obvious kind of looking at it. And the next one's right there. Let's go ahead and drop one in there. That's a very good area. A little bit under, it's a little bit sloppy, but we're just in the daytime frame. There's one right in that area. And just right down below there. And then obviously, we're at the high. And we're just above the high. We're just starting to break out and deck above. Those are your supports down below. So now you got like 64, 49, 41, 29. Probably any of those will get caught on a pullback and a bounce up to, at the speed of, that's awfully sharp, but at the speed of going forward on the trend, you can kind of see that it's headed towards probably, a retrace and a bounce over to like maybe 75 to 85 in the short term. And this would only be traded on 1x spot. I wouldn't trade this on leverage because, you could lose 1, 2, 3 supports and you'd be toast. Let's look at that speed though. Let's throw these on. All right. So for our EMAs, kind of looking at, trend and the strength of trend, nice compression to explosion. And you can see, it's off support, all the EMAs lined up, and now they're spread out pretty decently. I could see the retrace probably coming just to test 60, and then probably a bounce to clear through to like 72, maybe 76 in the near term. That would be where I'd be watching for things to go long. If that didn't quite hold, if it came back down to here and started clearing all those EMAs, I probably wouldn't trade it. I'd wait for something lower to look for. But that's pretty key. That spot right there, that was your retest. It's been solid. It was decked before it got on top. Once it got on top, just enough to wick people and stop out a lot of people and take off. Too sharp though. There has to be some retrace at some point. I can't just see it going straight to 80 from here, straight to 75. The volume's not there. If you look at the other volumes, if it does start to go down with a lot of volume, get out of the way. You got to respect the volume. If it just pulls back like that real light, it might just retrace just enough to bump and run. And let's look at it on a different time frame. Let's see how the EMAs look on maybe like the 4 hour. How are we looking? That's a real nice even spread. Doesn't look nearly as sharp when you look at it, in terms of the moving averages and the support and resistance around it. Let's drop a little lower and tighter. How's that look? It looks pretty decent. Just real quick, the red is a 9 EMA. The white is a 20. The blue is a 50. Yellow is 100. And this, whatever that is, orange, is a 200. It's found some supply. It's testing. They're really trying to hold up 60. It's, it's got some potential to come down and meet it. I'd say somewhere right in here, I'd be watching for reaction. Somewhere around there. And let's drop down to the 1 hour. Let's just see how that's still looking too. Okay, on the 1 hour, it's losing trend a little bit, and it's tried a few times, but they've absorbed it every single time. Like I said, that trend is just so sharp. Realistically, it looks like 61 is probably going to get tapped off the lowers in the 1 hours, and probably just test to 60. And that's really where I'm looking for a reaction. I'm not looking for a trade to go to 60. I'm not saying it's going to go to 60. I'm not saying it's going to hold. I'm not saying it's going to go to 80. I'm looking more for the volume to guide me because it's blue sky. Like there's nothing else to chart against. There's no like, hey, it's going to go a little bit higher and try to, check this overhead resistance. Like, there is nothing. This is all new. Everything right here is all new. In comparison to like 2017, after that halving, that 19, everyone's like, oh, it's going to 250. They were just crazy. They're crazy people. And it didn't. It went down to $3,000. It went to a very harsh bear market. I think we have one more bear market coming before adoption comes. But this time around in this halving, there has been a lot of institutional money flow in. That's also dangerous too. Like if they decided to sell off and change their minds, or, lock in gains, or for whatever reason, they have enough money in the market that they can just force things down. They could just potentially crack books just because they can afford it. They could push past something if they maybe were short on purpose and wanted to, arb over. They could do that. And that's a concern of mine as well, is the books aren't as thin, which makes them better for retail as long as the person that has the better money isn't playing the game. As long as they're there and locking things up, looking good, buying more, they stabilize things to a degree. But Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, places like that, if you have watched anything in the stock markets, they've been fined on numerous occasions for doing things just like that, both of which are in the cryptocurrency space now. And I would have to say this has got to be looking pretty juicy to them, not for a one-way trade, because they don't make money on a one-way trade. They make money going both ways. This is awfully, awfully juicy to maybe hit, 68, 72, maybe 85, and then start its retrace, and then Ethereum starts to kick in, and then rotate out to large caps, and they're just going to rotate money. I would assume they're going to run through another altcoin cycle and season. We may be at the spot where that's about to start, and those are the spots that I would watch for a potential long. And once the volume comes in and it lets go, I'd rotate over to Ethereum, and that's what we'll do next. Same thing for Ethereum. It's just pretty much at all-time highs. I mean, that's it right there. It's just about to check. It's going to check. Where is the next support? Right below. Well, it's right in there. There's another one, kind of an ugly one right there. 37. Pretty obvious one right there on the high time frames. Obviously, you start dropping down into here. Those are all pretty serious. That's a very serious support right there. So 1600 is like support, that's support. Could it go to 1600 if things went wrong? Sure, it could go to 1600. Is it likely to go to 1600 anytime soon? Probably not. Any one of those supports along the way is most likely going to hold. But again, volume would be my guide, since we're in the uncharted territory of all-time highs, and maybe everyone wants to take gains now. So far, there's been no volume for that. There's been no indication of that. There also is not ramping, pressing volume over the top. I don't see it. It's pretty much malaise. It's just anybody's game is 50-50. It's like betting red or black in roulette. I don't like those odds. I don't see a lot of potential here to have very clear direction. Like, oh man, it is 100% going to X price. Like, that's like what I'm looking for. Like, that's a big percentage chance of that. It's not really going on here in the way this chart is built. This chart is built 50-50, and that's unfortunate. So the best we can say right now is in blue sky, watch the volume, look for places like, that's probably a pretty good place, like 3,700, 3,300, I'd be looking for maybe like a retrace bounce. So as money rotated out of BTC after maybe, it finds its high and starts to put in some volume and sells when people rotate their money out, I'd be looking for Ethereum to somewhere in there, make its push to probably, I don't know. I could see Ethereum going to 48 to 6,500 before this is all done. And near term, it looks really good. It's consolidated around in this nice range of 2,700 is pretty far down. That's why I said I'd only trade at spot. And if it started, to just do its thing sideways and coil for a push, the longer it goes sideways and doesn't break down and starts to break out, the higher that's going to go, the more amplitude it'll have. I think Ethereum is probably worth 8,000 before this run is over. Personally, that's what I'd be looking for. And if not, the volume's going to guide me and these supports will start breaking. It'll just be clearly obvious. And then from there, I start looking for, things like Matic to run and all kinds of other, altcoin season to rotate out after BTC and Ethereum are done. The mania blow off there is done. Start rotating into Web3 coins and things that are in the Ethereum ecosystem that have really solid technology that has not seen its day yet. Maybe it's seen a good run in the first part of, the run right after the halving, where you've seen stuff like Uniswap, and other quality projects come online that support DEX and ecosystem and, making gas solutions cheaper with side chains. Those things all saw a pretty good run. Do I think they're done though? Oh no, definitely not. None of those things are done. Those things are in their infancy. A lot of those tokens are going to go to prices that nobody could even imagine. They're going to make market cap look stupid. And people always just say, oh, it's not possible because of market cap. I mean, the tokens are going to do what the tokens are going to do, because all industry is going to start to be tokenized. You're going to see NASDAQ moved over. You're going to see FedEx moved over. Everybody's going to go to the blockchain, and everyone's been saying that for a long time, and it's been a long time coming. And while that long time coming, sure, ETH was $80 back then, or $100. But look what happened. Everyone's like, it's going to happen one day. That's the great breakdown. Now it is happening, but this is just like Grayscale and them coming on. This isn't really use or adoption. It's light use. This is, some NFTs, a little bit of DEX. Imagine when everything goes into the ecosystem. I mean, this is just going to get dwarfed. Before that happens, though, one more good bear cycle, one more good check, probably down in, 1200, 1033 range. That's going to be after the cycle ends. By the next halving, everybody will be on DEX. Tokens will be tokenized for everything you can imagine. Your driver's license, they're talking about that right now. Your voting, your passports, your medical records. Once that happens, that's it. That's the rocket shot. You need, to be positioned prior to that. And there's no reason to overpay for things right now, just because that is coming. Like, don't FOMO out. I mean, it's time off. But this is a beautiful thing. You're at all-time highs with a recheck. Again, that doesn't look fantastic to just, like, had this been a little more slower and gradual in ramping, that would be the bull run of all bull runs. This says to me, like, this is NFT, this is, DEX coming in, this is like the first wave. And then everyone took gains. And then everyone's like, but it's going to happen. And then, all the FOMO people came on, and maybe you might see marketing on Instagram and Facebook. This is about when they said we can run ads again, and it kind of went, brought new people back in, but the volume was not that great. I mean, it's, there's some spots that are pretty terrible. The spots that are really fantastic are the breakout to the breakdown, the breakout to the retrace, the breakout to the retrace. I don't see the breakout here yet. I think we go over, push some volume, retrace. I would definitely be looking for a move to get in on that and pad my account as much as I can before the next good down cycle. Go back to cash myself personally. Do whatever you want with your account. My goal is to be in as many Web3 tokens and Ethereum ecosystem plays, because they provide actual dApps and they provide things for people to use right now. There's a lot of chains out there that don't have any developers. They have no use cases, and they're just empty blocks. I mean, look at BCH. What does it do? Nothing. What does BTC really do besides record its own ledger? Nothing. People are like, oh, but the Lightning Network. There's no smart contracts on there. There's nothing being built on, BTC. Ethereum is where it's at. And people go, oh, Ethereum Classic. Yeah, that's great. Who's building on it? No one. No one cares. Everything is on Ethereum right now. That could change very easily. That's why gas is really crazy priced. But anything that is short-term going to make me a lot of money, that gives me the best potential, is going to be something that is just coming online, like GRT, Matic, things like that, like when people laughed at Uniswap and they're like, oh, who's ever going to use that? Well, they aired up a bunch of free tokens and we all know where that went. And then there's all this ecosystem that came after it, where all this money changed hands, where people rushed in. That's the same thing we're looking at again, but we're not there. We don't have the support for it yet, but we're getting it. So just for short term, myself, I'm looking for a nice entry somewhere in there between 32 or even a push over and a pullback. I mean, I don't mind paying more as long as it's showing me that it's support. If this pushes way over and comes back and just holds support, I'm fine longing and paying more at 44. I'd prefer to pay, 34, maybe 27 for the next push. And then I would like to trade this. I'd like to trade that pullback into that test. That's a lot more sure motions and easier for me to trade. It is too hard for anyone to look at this chart right now and quantify we're going to go to 9 or 8 or whatever. Everyone feels like that, and that probably will because, everyone's kind of willing to pay. But the volume doesn't say that anyone's putting their money where their mouth is. It's not happening yet. So use those guidelines to kind of decide where you might find a trade and look for altcoin season, because BTC, even if it goes to 100, that's not even a 100% move anymore. If Ethereum goes to 8,000, that's a 100% move. But are there any altcoins in this next season coming up that can go more than 100%? Yeah, there are, and we'll start covering those as we go forward. There's tons of them, and that's where the better money is going to be. Until that starts, start getting positioned. Start educating yourself more of what's a quality token, what might be worth holding, and what's probably just going to be a lotto play that the risk is way too much, where you might make, 1,000x, but the chance that happening is like 1 in 100. Those aren't quality plays. And you'll see a lot of people posting, oh, I made all this money. They're not traders. They lose it all anyway. And all they do is cause other people to FOMO and feel bad because they missed that one unique play that somebody was in from TikTok marketing. And the guy makes 100, 200 grand. And a week later he's bust because he bets on another, lotto ticket and they get rugged. That's not my thing. I don't really try to talk about that on this channel. Not interested in it. I know that there are fantastic gains to be made in that, but there's also way too much risk. I'm about low risk, steady trading, good spots based on, support and resistance, classic things that people trade, easy things to trade. That's easy. This is real simple. I know exactly where I want to trade. And if I don't see that happen, I'm not trading it. Right now, the risk is huge. It's at all-time highs. Could it break over? Sure, it could. Could it reject and go way down? It could, but until there's some volume for some confirm, I don't know. Nobody knows. You just have to wait for something to happen. You have to wait for one side to move or the other. And you can do that again, kind of looking at, your exponential moving averages. You can get a little bit of guidance, like where's it on the 1 minute? Ooh, it's breaking under every single support. It's pulling back. So would I want to buy this right now? Probably not. If I scale up to like the 5 minute, is it finding support yet? It's at the bottom of support of 5 minutes too. It's failed every single thing. So if it fails every single EMA on the lower time frames, it's probably going to head for a support. Where's that next support at? 37. That's a good spot. If that EMA right there breaks down, let's scale up because the 5 is still pretty fast. Like, let's look at the 1 hours. Okay, there's a lot of EMA below, but it's failed the 9. It's checking the 20. Where could it run to? Probably the next blue one, and that's 4,000. So that's a solid number. That's a good place to look for a trade. Would I take a trade there? No, I'm not saying take a trade there. I'm saying that's a place to watch. It's a place where swing traders are starting to look for time frames that have potential on a pullback to a bounce. If it gets there and it just looks weak, I'll look for the next one and I'll look for the next one. And if it breaks all those EMAs, I'm still looking at that support and resistance just right below. It looks real juicy. Like that's probably the spot. Why? It's kind of where it took off from. It's where they wicked. It's where they mopped up and they took off. It's probably going to retest that. So do I want to overpay? I got time. I can wait. I want to look for a triple lineup too, like an elder triple screen. Ooh. What's right there? Oh, there's 100 right there, 100 EMA. And by the time that breaks down, this rising one will probably be at the 200 if it does, for that pullback. Wicking over the top, lots of volume. I mean, they're not getting it. So more than likely, there's a better chance to revisit some of these before it takes back off. Those are the spots I would watch. That's how I would watch it, and that's how I would look for an entry. If any of it is bad when it gets there, like I'm not saying like I'm taking 3,700 no matter what. No way. That's just my interest level. That's how I look at my charts. I want to trade something super easy. I want to trade from right here to right there. That's it. And I want to trade as the trends are going up and after they've compressed and they've, showed me that they're going to hold just like these and then support and bounce off. I mean, those are easy trades. That's all I want to trade. I don't want to trade 1,000x coins that have lots of risk. I want to trade something, low spot, easy plays in and out. Just wallet patterns, make a little bit of money and I'm gone. Good luck.